Qatar isolated. Diplomatic crisis ensues as Arab powers cut ties with Qatar. Air, land and sea routes blocked.
First at 9. This is Derana 24/7.
Sri Lankans living in Qatar will not be affected, says ambassador in Qatar. Post-disaster situation. President Maithripala Sirisena visits disaster-affected areas in Kaluthara. Plastic rice investigation underway into allegations. Sale of basmati rice imported from Pakistan suspended. Controversial bond issuance. Deputy Minister Harsha De Silva makes revelation before Commission of Inquiry. A major diplomatic crisis broke out in the Gulf region with 6 Arab nations closing their land, air and sea borders to one of their own. We start off your primetime news with that story. I'm Indivari Amwath. Saudi Arabia, Egypt, Bahrain, Yemen, Libya and the United Arab Emirates severed diplomatic ties with Qatar, accusing it of supporting terrorism, including so-called Islamic State and Al-Qaeda, and of backing the agenda of regional arch-rival Iran. Rejecting these allegations as baseless, Qatar's Ministry of Foreign Affairs expressed its regret at the decision of its Arab neighbors. Later in the day, the Maldives also announced that they would join the 6 other countries, citing or rather cutting ties with Qatar.
The diplomatic withdrawal was put into motion by Bahrain and then Saudi Arabia early this morning and was swiftly followed by their allies. Saudi Arabian state news agency SPA said Riyadh has closed its borders, severing land, sea and air contact with the peninsula of Qatar, citing national security and the dangers of terrorism and extremism. Gulf neighbors allege Qatar continues to support radical groups, including the Muslim Brotherhood in Egypt. While Qatar is part of the US coalition against the so-called Islamic State, its government has been forced to repeatedly deny accusations of providing financial support to IS, and wealthy nationals are believed to have made donations. With the breakdown in relations, Saudi Arabia, Bahrain and the UAE have given Qatari nationals 2 weeks to leave their territory. Meanwhile, Qatari diplomats in Egypt and the UAE have been told to leave within 48 hours. In response, Qatar's Ministry of Foreign Affairs said that the measures by Saudi Arabia, Bahrain and the UAE are unjustified and the allegations have no basis in fact. Qatar alleges that it has been a target of a systematic incitement campaign and that there has been a display of intent to harm the state. The economic impact was felt immediately as oil prices dropped and the UAE stock market suffered a pullback in share prices after the Qatari stock market opened with an 800-point drop. With the closure of airspace to Qatar, regional carriers announced the cancellation of flights into and out of Doha. Emirates, Etihad and Fly Dubai have all announced that flights from and to Doha are suspended indefinitely starting tomorrow. Reuters reports that Egypt's Civil Aviation Ministry has halted all flights between Egypt and Qatar, and Saudi Arabian Airlines said it has cancelled all flights to Qatar effective immediately. Gulf Air has suspended its daily service between Manama and Doha, with its last flight on the route departing tonight.
With the growing crisis in the Arab world, we contacted Sri Lankan ambassador to Qatar, ASP Lianage. He stated that there will be no cause of panic for Sri Lankan expatriates living in Qatar due to the current diplomatic crisis.
At the moment, there is nothing special to worry about Sri Lankan because everything is proceeding smoothly in Qatar. The only issue is about these airlines. So certain airlines, they are not proceeding, so that is the main problem. So we advise Sri Lankans not to travel these days. If there is anything which you want to know about Qatar situation, please contact our Sri Lankan embassy in Qatar.
And Derana will keep you updated on the developments of the crisis via SMS and on our website www.otherderana.lk. Moving on to other local stories, President Maithripala Sirisena made an observation tour in the areas of several flood-affected areas in Kaluthara district today. He also inquired into relief provisions and development activities required for the affected areas and residents.
President Maithripala Sirisena made an observation tour to the disaster-hit areas of Bulat Yatagampitiya and Nagahadola in the Kalathura district today. The President also participated in a Shramadana campaign organised in the area by the Ministry of Environment in line with the World Environment Day, which falls today. He then inspected the location where a blockage which obstructed water flow of the Nagahadola river resulted in flooding. The river had been clogged after a landslide occurred in the Pahiyangala hill. The President instructed the District Secretary to submit a disaster situation report on the Pahiyangala landslide. He then participated in distributing relief items to the displaced persons who are currently living in Yatagampitiya Primary School in Bulat Sinhala. Meanwhile, an all-night Pirit chanting ceremony to invoke blessings on the country and victims of the disaster is underway at the Independence Square with the participation by President Maithripala Sirisena. 1,000 members of the Mahasangha, including the chief prelates, are participating in the all-night Pirit chanting ceremony.
And the Minister of Disaster Management, Anura Priyadarshini says the government must implement plans for the betterment of future generations, which may include difficult decisions such as the relocation of residents from particular areas. The minister made the remark addressing media at the Disaster Management Centre today, warning that if no such measures are taken, worse calamities could be faced in the future.
Certain places we have to categorize as places where people cannot live. Some people may have to be relocated. We have to work with the people and make sure that they don't harm the environment in such places. Certain area of banks of the rivers have to be considered as buffer zones. It's a very difficult thing. Being a small island, population of around 21 million, the people have gone into all the places. The government has to work and put forward a plan, and plan has to be implemented. Whether we like or not, we will have to do this for the betterment of the future generations. Otherwise, future calamities will be much worse than this.
And Disaster Management Minister Anura Priyadarshini also held a media briefing earlier today alongside a team of experts from Japan International Cooperation Agency who are in the island to study the disaster situation here.
The team of experts from the Japan International Cooperation Agency arrived in Sri Lanka on Saturday and has begun a survey of the country's disaster-affected areas.
We would like to also make a report to submit to the government of Sri Lanka to help future collaboration between Sri Lanka and Japan.
Speaking at the briefing, Minister of Disaster Management Anura Priyadarshini stated that the government is prepared to heed and support the scientific community in studying and mitigating natural disasters.
For the long-term steps, of course, we will have to have a clear picture. So the Japanese team will give us an insight of what really happened and what we have to do. And there will be one expert staying with the ministry from next month. So this is not something that we can do alone. Scientific community from now on will have to take over this whole situation and gives us guidance. Government is prepared and willing to listen to them, and then according to them, government will give sufficient money to build or do any other thing to sustain this issue.
And schools which were closed in the western, Sabaragamu and southern provinces due to the disaster situation have reopened starting today. Most students, however, face difficulties as their school books and uniforms have been destroyed.
Although studies have resumed in schools in the three provinces, attendance of students hailing from severely affected areas was low. Some students had to attend school in casual attire because their uniforms had been destroyed. Students in Alaihala in Habarakada strive to dry their books in the sun, laying them out on the road. Meanwhile, other Derana received reports of schools severely damaged by the adverse weather. This was the state of the East Mudunkotuwa Vidyalaya in Ratnapura during the floods. This is what the school looks like now.
The
Bulat Sinhala Primary School, which is situated in one of the hardest hit areas in the district of Kalathura, was also reopened today.
ඇඳුම් සුදු ඇඳුම් තියෙනවා. ඒවල මඩ ගෑවිලා කහ පාට වෙලා. හේරුවට මේ යන්නේ නැහැ මම.
A building of the Habarakada Janapada Primary School in Gaul was completely destroyed by a landslide.
අපිට මේ ඉස්කෝලේ ඉන්න බයයි. ඉස්කෝලේ කණ්ඩි කඩාගෙන වැටෙනවා.
Manusad Derana humanitarian initiative, together with the Government Medical Officers Association, has set up mobile health clinics across the country to provide medical assistance to those who have been affected by the recent calamity. Today, the first mobile health clinic was conducted at the Kiribadgala Primary School in Ratnapura district, one of the worst affected areas of the country.
Those displaced, together with area residents, were provided free health checkups and medication at the mobile clinic. A workshop on healthcare was also held while relief goods were distributed. Meanwhile, Sampath Bank donated medicines to the Manusad Derana initiative today.
Sampath
Bank and Manusad Derana will work together to provide the necessary medicines to 5 main areas. The reason we joined this initiative is that we have complete trust is that donations will be given directly to those that have been affected.
The next Manusad Derana mobile medical clinic will be held at the Gamini Mahavidyalaya in Kalawana, Koswata, commencing at 9 a.m. tomorrow.
World Environment Day, which falls today, is the biggest annual event for positive environmental action and is celebrated every year on the 5th of June. How many of us, however, take the time to walk outdoors and appreciate the nature around us? The theme for this year's UN World Environment Day, Connecting People to Nature, encourages us to do just that.
Since its inception in 1974, World Environment Day has developed into a global platform for raising awareness and taking action on urgent issues from marine pollution and global warming to sustainable consumption and wildlife crime. The theme for this year, Connecting People to Nature, aims to remind mankind of how dependent we are on the environment. In a message marking World Environment Day, President Maithripala Sirisena noted that it took several centuries for human beings to accept the fact that they are only one among nature's many creations. The President added that even though civilizations have made efforts to change the natural environment to suit their needs over the years, we have to admit that humans cannot survive without a sustainable environment due to the frequent occurrences of natural disasters like landslides, floods, and drought. Meanwhile, Prime Minister Ranil Wickremesinghe has said that although Sri Lanka has a unique biodiversity footprint and ecological advantages, the eco-balance has shifted over time as a result of decision-making focused on short-term goals and fast gains, causing considerable harm to the environment. The PM added that we need to rediscover the manner in which our ancestors were able to coexist in harmony with nature, and as a country, we must be conscious of the need to address ecological and environmental concerns as we travel the path to progress.
And Lanka Satasa says investigations into imported basmati rice are being conducted by the Medical Research Institution and the Criminal Investigations Department. Convening a media briefing, Chairman of Sri Lanka, or rather Lanka Satasa, TMKB Thenakon, denied allegations made in social media campaign that has recently gone viral.
The video campaign claimed that the basmati rice purchased from Lanka Satasa does not become stale, unlike other varieties of basmati rice. Speculation has since arisen that this variety of rice may have been mixed with plastic. These stocks of basmati rice are reportedly imported from Pakistan.
You can see that it's impossible to make balls out of this, but it is sticky. Purchasing decisions are taken by a tender board. This is the normal procedure when buying consumer goods. The purchase of this stock of rice from the tender board was conducted on the 16th. We don't have any intention of playing with consumers' food. We stopped selling rice yesterday. We went to these places personally and cooked samples of rice. There's nothing wrong with the samples and they have the usual smell. We are ready to take legal action regarding tarnishing the image of our institution.
Meanwhile, in Mathura district, people who were affected by the floods state that they have observed the nature of rice received as relief aid to be unusual. Meanwhile, the Disaster Management Centre also expressed their views on the matter.
We received 10,000 tons of rice as a donation from Pakistan. We are taking responsibility for that, but we cannot give any statement regarding the rice sold by Satasa.
And on the developments of the adverse impact of the recent weather situation, the United People's Freedom Alliance parliamentarian Ranjit Soizer says that the government did not have a proper disaster management plan in place to face the recent floods. Joint opposition parliamentarians expressed these views regarding the matter at a media briefing in Colombo today.
Our ancestors believe that there are 3 floods between April and May, and we are usually prepared. When we were in power, we were getting ready for the floods by April by bringing boats and barges. We send them via the Gramaniladari. We collected essential food items and activated disaster management units. The number of deaths could have been reduced, but the government did not have a proper plan or a precautionary program.
Parliamentarian Kumara Welgama also expressed his views regarding the matter.
These ministers visit affected areas with convoys of government vehicles, but none of them carry relief goods. The ministers go here and there without reason. People will lose their temper when they see them. I have to say, MP Palitha Tewaraperuma did a great job, but others are only putting on a show. The President has appointed ministers to coordinate the relief work in each affected area. I'm asking these appointed ministers to visit villages, meet with the affected people and provide them with relief goods.
Responding to several claims by the Government Medical Officers Association pertaining to the non-availability of the drug Dextran, Minister of Health, Nutrition and Indigenous Medicine, Dr. Rajitha Senaratne says that such accusations are false and that there is ample stock of the drug available for distribution. Dextran is an intravenous fluid that can be administered to critical dengue patients in order to control shocks that can lead to death.
We found out that critical drugs are not in enough the stocks of the medical supplies division, mainly the Tamiflu and the Dextran 40.
The GMO has said that there is a shortage of Dextran. That's a total lie because there is no substitute. The Dextran is available. The next Dextran shipment will be coming to the country on Wednesday. So there is plenty available in all hospitals. Actually, the Indian product was imported to the country in 2012 and this had been stopped. Now we always bring down the Dextran from Thailand. This drug is only issued to the state sector. If you go to a pharmacy, you can't get Dextran, or to a private hospital. Even the private hospital supplies are given from the government because it's a government to government understanding because they don't issue this as to the private sector. That is why we go through the embassy. Our Sri Lankan embassy in Thailand and they are the Thai embassy in Sri Lanka. They only help us to get this done quickly. That is why I told the ministry hereafter not to get down this GMO because they don't behave like doctors. They are just behave like irresponsible third-rate politicians.
In your business stories, Deputy Minister of National Policies and Economic Affairs Dr. Harsha De Silva appeared before the Commission of Inquiry investigating the controversial central bank bond issuance today. The Deputy Minister revealed here that he had received a phone call on the same day of the controversial bond auction, which was held in 2015, raising concerns on the auction.
The Presidential Commission of Inquiry into bond issuance of the central bank reconvened today after 2 weeks with Deputy Minister Dr. Harsha De Silva appearing before it in his capacity as a member of the Committee on Public Enterprises in the 8th Parliament. Representing the Attorney General's office, Senior State Counsel Avanti Pereira brought the Commission's attention to the COPE report that was presented to the Parliament. Dr. Harsha De Silva revealed that he had received a phone call in the afternoon on the 27th of February 2015, the day on which the controversial bond auction was held. The Deputy Minister explained that the phone call was from First Capital Holdings, another primary dealer in the secondary market, who raised concerns regarding the bond auction which took place that morning, saying things seemed unusual. Replying to follow-up questions by the Commission, Dr. De Silva said that he had inquired twice about said concerns from then-Governor of the Central Bank, Arjuna Mahendran, on the same day. However, the former governor had dismissed these concerns on both occasions. Later, State Counsel Avanti Pereira inquired whether the Committee on Public Enterprises looked into transactions of Treasury bonds in the secondary market to draft recommendations for their report. Dr. De Silva explained that the central bank was not equipped to record these transactions at the time they had requested the said information, and as a result, the central bank was unable to provide those data. However, members of the Presidential Commission noted to the audience that it is standard procedure for the central bank to record transactions of Treasury bonds in the secondary market. Replying to another follow-up question, the Deputy Minister stated that COPE had requested this information during the tenures of both Arjuna Mahendran and Indrajit Kumaraswamy as governors of the central bank. Dr. Harsha De Silva expressed his views to the media after testifying at the Commission.
I was asked to come as a member of the COPE, not in my personal capacity. But since I was there and since I have technical knowledge on such matters, they asked me some questions that relate to technical matters as well, to which I answered. Once the report of this commission of inquiry is out, then the President or the relevant authorities will determine what the next step should be.
And on the developments of the Qatar crisis, oil prices reversed gains to trade down today on concerns that the cutting of ties with Qatar by top crude exporter Saudi Arabia and other Arab states could hamper a global deal to reduce oil production. The move pushed Brent crude prices up as much as 1% before paring gains to trade down 30 cents at $49.65 a barrel. With a production capacity of about 600,000 barrels per day, Qatar's crude output is one of OPEC's smallest, but tension within the organization could weaken the supply deal aimed at supporting prices. Brent futures are still down about 7% from their open on the 25th of May, when OPEC opted to extend production cuts into 2018. And in the Sri Lankan stock market, the all share price index lost to 12.75 to close at 6,676.32, while the S&P SL20 index declined 3.12 to close trade at 3,839.33. Market turnover today fell to a relatively low of 395 million rupees, with JK Edge contributing the highest of 107 million rupees. Meanwhile, foreign investors were net sellers, or rather net buyers, with inflow of about 102 million rupees. Foreign participation was about 25% of market turnover today. We have the daily market update with RM Sivanandan from the Colombo Stock Exchange.
Top 5 gainers of the day were Eden Hotel Lanka, Kalamasu Systems, Palm Garden Hotel, Apico Insurance and Royal Palms Beach Hotel. While the top 5 losers were AB Crazy, Black Lanka Finance, Adam Capital, Browns Capital and Eastern Merchant.
And the Sri Lankan rupee ended steady today as imported dollar demand offset greenback sales by exporters. Dealers said there is optimism over expected inflows in the form of international assistance, which could help offset potential downward pressure on the Sri Lankan rupee. Here's a look at how the Sri Lankan rupee traded against other major currencies during the day. It It is exactly 1 year to the day since the armory explosion in the Salawa army camp, which led the country to rethink security measures with regard to safeguarding armories across the island. Over 100 people were affected by the incident, which shook the entire nation that day. A year later, this is our insight into how those affected are coping with their situation today.
The explosion at the armory in Salawa army camp next to the Colombo-Avisawala road took place on the 5th of June last year. The explosion was powerful enough to destroy houses and lands belonging to 13 Grama Seva divisions. Today, we went to the location where lives were changed overnight. A year later, the affected expressed their views to Other Derana.
My entire house was destroyed, but the army came and reconstructed everything. Everything's propped up with planks. There are cracks in the walls. As the estimated compensation, we only got 135,000 rupees. This house needs complete reconstruction. I would like to ask the government whether they are waiting till all these walls collapse, burying me and my children. It's been a year. We don't have a front door or proper windows. We get drenched when there's rain because our roof is damaged. I am living with 2 children here and no one even comes to check on us. We will have to go into the streets after some time. None of this happened because of something we did.
Meanwhile, Minister of Disaster Management Anurapriya Darshana Yapa explained how compensation was provided for the affected in the Salawa disaster. We've given 4.2 million rupees for 48 appeals regarding house estimations. We provided 320.6 million rupees to purchase furniture for 940 houses. And for those who lost their homes completely or don't have suitable houses to live in, we allocated 7.2 million rupees that will be given in 5 installments of 50,000 rupees. We have given 3.1 million rupees to 315 beneficiaries, including workers attached to affected businesses and affected small-scale entrepreneurs. There are a few businessmen who still haven't collected their compensation from us. They had gone to the Human Rights Commission instead. Except for those few people, we have provided compensation to 95% of the victims. The military has reconstructed 992 partly damaged houses and buildings so far. We also provided a plot of land within the Salawa army camp premises to businessmen who were affected by this incident.
And in sports, the 4th and final day of the 43rd National Age Group Swimming Meet concluded last evening at the Sukadadasa National Sports Complex in an event featuring over 300 swimmers representing both schools and clubs. St. Joseph's College took the men's title with 442.5 points, with Anand College runners-up on 373 and Lyceum Wattala in third on 284 points. Meanwhile, Vishaka Vidyalaya laid claim to the women's title with 445.5 points and Lyceum Wattala took second with 379, followed by Mahamaya College Kandy in third with 267 points. In your international stories, Australian police today shot and killed a gunman in the city of Melbourne who had been holding a woman hostage. Police said 3 officers were hurt in a standoff at an apartment in the beachside suburb of Brighton and that they are investigating whether the incident is linked to militant activity. As the City of London begins its week following the shock of Saturday night's events, the Metropolitan Police have confirmed that they know the identity of the attackers and are establishing whether they were part of a wider network. The so-called Islamic State has claimed responsibility for the attack, but Met Police said a number of people have been detained following raids in East London.
12 people were arrested in Barking yesterday following a raid at a flat believed to be the residence of one of the attackers, and 11 remain in custody. Metropolitan Police Commissioner Cressida Dick said a huge amount of forensic evidence has been seized from the van used in the attack and the police raids in Barking and Newham. According to police, 36 people are still in hospital with a range of injuries following the attack and 21 are in critical condition.
The police are working hard to establish the identity of all of those who were tragically killed or injured in the event on Saturday night. But it is now clear that, sadly, victims came from a number of nationalities. This was an attack on London and the United Kingdom, but it was also an attack on the free world.
That we take a look at how your weather forecast will be for the next 24 hours. We cross over to our weather centre.
Welcome to the Weather Centre. Now we can expect rain in the western, Sabragamo, southern, central and northwestern provinces, particularly in Nuwara and Katukassutu within the next 24 hours. Now strong gusts of wind of about 50 kilometers per hour will be experienced during these wet weather conditions. Now particularly in Matale, Polonnaruwa and Hambantota district. Now if we look at the Ratnapura area, misty weather conditions can be expected in the next 24 hours. Tomorrow's lowest temperature is predicted in the Kandy district at 23 degrees Celsius, while the highest temperature is expected in Trincomalee at 34 degrees Celsius. Let's now take a look at the city-by-city forecast.
And that wraps up your prime time news at 9 for tonight. But before we go, we'd like to leave you with visuals from the Ambuluwawa mountain in Gampala, which sports a tall spiral tower that grants a spectacular 360-degree view of the surrounding landscape. Have a pleasant evening. Good night.
Information 24 hours a day. This is Sri Lanka's premier news channel, Other Derana, 24/7.
This is Other Derana, and you're watching Other Derana 24/7.